across Ohio and all across America. I'm really grateful you all came out today. I truly am. We had a late one last night, but it was a good one. But I'm here for one reason and one reason only, just like you. I know that Ohio and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. You know, 4 years ago, a movement was born. A movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. Here in Ohio, you knew we could be strong again. You knew we could be prosperous again. You said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016, and I know that Ohio's going to say yes to 4 more years of President Donald Trump in 2020. And how about that debate last night? I'll tell you what, it was, I'll tell you, the president took to the stage and he took the fight straight to Joe Biden, and he won that debate hands down. You know, it was amazing. I saw Joe looking at his watch. I figured he was trying to figure out how soon this thing's going to be over. You know, it really was amazing. The president said last night, after 47 years of all talk and no action under President Donald Trump, it's been 3.5 years of promises made and promises kept. Am I right? I mean, just think about it. 4 years ago, we inherited a military that was hollowed out by reckless budget cuts. An economy that was struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. Terrorism was on the rise around the world, and we saw a steady assault on our most cherished values. But in 3 short years, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We secured our border, supported law enforcement, stood for life, liberty, and the Constitution of the United States. You know, and it all starts with our national defense, doesn't it? It's the first priority of the national government is to provide for the common defense. And after years of budget cuts that hollowed out our military when Joe Biden was vice president, I'm proud to report, as your vice president and as the father of a captain in the United States Marine Corps, that we are finally giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and the support they need to defend this nation. President Donald Trump has signed the largest investment in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. And it's not just been about supporting those who wear the uniform. It's been about supporting the men and women who served in our armed forces. America's veterans. You know, when Joe Biden was vice president, you all remember here in Ohio, we saw years of scandal at the VA that shocked the conscience of the nation. I mean, there were actually veterans in this country who were passing away waiting to receive care at the VA. But under President Donald Trump, those days are over. Our president has signed the most sweeping reforms of the VA in 50 years. We fired thousands of VA employees that weren't giving our veterans the care that they earned, and Veterans Choice is now available to every veteran in America. In fact, before I go one step further, I figure there's some men and women among us that step forward to serve our country in uniform. Would you mind just putting your hand in the air and letting us have the opportunity to say thank you one more time? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. So it's been about our national defense and standing with our veterans. And in our first 3 years, after Joe Biden and the last administration tried to tax and spend and regulate us back to a growing economy, President Donald Trump created the greatest economy in American history. I mean, it's amazing to think in the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. President Trump, well, we cut taxes across the board. For working families and businesses large and small, we rolled back more federal red tape than any administration in history. We fought for free and fair trade. We unleashed American energy. And in just 3 short years, businesses large and small created 7 million good-paying jobs, including 82,000 jobs right here in the state of Ohio. It's amazing. I mean, unemployment reached a 50-year low all across America. And here in the Buckeye State, household income grew. Household income grew nearly 4 times as much in our first 3 years as it did under all 8 years of the Obama-Biden administration. And wages rose at their fastest pace in 10 years, but they rose most rapidly for hard-working blue-collar Americans. The forgotten men and women of America were forgotten no more. He's been putting the interest of hard-working Americans and American families first. But he's also been putting America first when it comes to international trade. So important here in the state of Ohio and all across the heartland. You know, when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with communist China. We were losing $500 billion a year in our trading relationship with China. And Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China all along the way. He actually said the rise of China was a positive development, and he scoffed last year at the idea that China was even a competitor of the United States. But under President Donald Trump, we put China on notice. We said the era of economic surrender is over. We imposed tariffs on China, and we're going to keep standing strong until they open up their markets to what we make and what we grow. And you know, I don't have to tell people across the heartland what NAFTA meant, communities across Ohio. You know, over in the Hoosier State, we saw entire communities shuttered when factories closed after NAFTA and moved those jobs south of the border, Mexico. Now, Democrats for decades used to like to complain about NAFTA, talk about how bad it was. But their party and Joe Biden never lifted a finger to fix what was broken about NAFTA. But the man who wrote The Art of the Deal got working Americans a better deal. NAFTA is gone, and the USMCA is here to stay. And it's a huge win for Ohio and Ohio workers. And when it comes to energy, Joe Biden and the radical left want to crush American energy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal that would literally raise the cost of electricity for every home and every business in this state. And worse still, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking. If anybody doubted it, last night in the debate, at the tail end, did you see it? Joe Biden said that the oil industry pollutes and has to be replaced. It was what the president called a big statement. Well, I got to tell you, the truth of the matter is, America's strength and power comes in part from our vast natural resources. And under President Donald Trump, we are going to continue to develop all of the resources of this land and drive a boundless American future. You all deserve to know in Ohio that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to end fracking no matter what they're saying now. I mean, to end fracking in this state alone, studies show Ohio could lose up to 700,000 jobs. But President Donald Trump, he's been a champion for American energy. We ended the war on coal. We developed the resources of this land. Today, America is a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. We've achieved energy independence, and we're going to have more energy independence with 4 more years. You know, we made great progress on energy and energy independence. And let me just say, I know he slipped off to catch a plane, but none of that would have been possible without the strong and principled leadership on the House Energy and Commerce Committee of Congressman Bob Latta. Would you join me in thanking him for being a champion of our prosperity and American energy? You know, when Joe Biden was vice president, America actually lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And remember, the last president said those jobs were never coming back. True. I mean, for years, their friends on the East Coast and on the left coast used to like to refer to our part of the country as the Rust Belt. And it sure had a lot of rust on it when they were in charge, didn't it? I mean, when President Obama said those jobs were not coming back, remember what he said? He said, "What magic wand do you have?" Well, we didn't need a magic wand. We just needed President Donald Trump in the White House. 500,000 manufacturing jobs created in just 3 years, including 13,000 jobs right here in the Buckeye State. It's incredible. And finally, even on health care, you all remember the disaster of Obamacare, don't you? Remember the big lies of Obamacare? They said if you like your doctor, you can keep him. Wasn't true. They said if you like your health insurance, you can keep it. It wasn't true. They said that health insurance premiums were going to go down. You know, when we came into office, health insurance premiums had actually doubled under Obamacare. And Joe Biden has a plan to take the socialized medicine concept out of Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill and put it right in the middle of Obamacare. He calls it a public option. You heard the president talking about it last night. I mean, you take Bernie Sanders' socialist idea, you put it right in the middle of Obamacare, you're going to set America on an inevitable path to socialized medicine. Now, last night, Joe Biden in the debate said that not one single person with private health insurance lost their plan under Obamacare. But the truth is, more than 6 million Americans had their individual health plans canceled when Obamacare took effect. But under President Donald Trump, we got rid of the individual mandate in Obamacare. We've been fighting to lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. We've lowered the cost of prescription drugs. We passed right to try. We're going to make the best health care system in the world even better still and more affordable for every American, and America will never be a socialist country. We're going to use the power of freedom and free markets and free enterprise to give the American people the health insurance they need. So men and women of Ohio, we have a choice to make. It's a choice, as the president says, between a Trump recovery and a Biden depression. I mean, a recent study came out that showed that under Joe Biden's policies, America would lose 5 million jobs. And the income of the average American family would drop by $6,500 a year. So you got to ask your neighbors and friends every day for the next 11 days here in the Buckeye State. You just got to ask them, who do you really think can bring this economy all the way back? A career politician who's been spending 47 years raising taxes, increasing regulations, economic surrender on international trade, or a proven job creator who's going to keep cutting taxes, cutting red tape, and putting American jobs and American workers first? So for our families, for our jobs, for a boundless American comeback, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. You all are great. So we've stood for our national security and those who defended it. We fought for American prosperity and jobs, energy and American workers. And President Donald Trump every day has stood for the rule of law. We've appointed more than 200 conservatives to our federal courts at every level, and they are all men and women who will uphold all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Now, last month, we rightly paused as a nation to honor the life and service of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But when the memorials were over, President Trump fulfilled his duty under the Constitution of the United States when he nominated an amazing, brilliant, conservative woman to the Supreme Court of the United States, Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Isn't she great? And not just because she's a Hoosier. Just an amazing person. Now, President Trump and I called on Democrats to give Judge Barrett a respectful hearing this time around. But we had reason to be concerned. I mean, you might remember when she was being confirmed to the Court of Appeals just a couple of years ago. Democrats and liberals around the country were attacking her because of her Catholic faith. The leading Democrat on the Judiciary Committee said she was concerned about her religious conviction because she said, and I quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." And Hollywood elites have been criticizing Judge Barrett's faith and her convictions ever since. Well, I got news for the Democrats and their friends in Hollywood. That dogma lives loudly in me. That dogma lives loudly in you. And the right to live and work and worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America. So the Senate's got a vote to take. And as the President of the Senate, I'm going to be sitting there when it happens. And I'll make you a prediction. After the Senate gets done doing their advising and consenting, Judge Amy Coney Barrett is going to be Justice Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, speaking of the Supreme Court, didn't come up in the debate last night, but the people of Ohio deserve to know. After 150 years with 9 judges on the Supreme Court of this country, leading Democrats in Washington are talking about packing the court, adding seats so they can appoint activist liberal judges to advance their agenda from the judiciary. Now, first Joe Biden said he wasn't going to answer the question. Then he said he was going to answer the question after Judge Barrett was confirmed. Now he's saying he's going to answer after the election again. He said it's a live ball. He's going to tell the American people whether he's going to pack the court. long after Election Day. Well, come on, man. The American people deserve a straight answer, Joe. When you're running for the highest office in the land, you ought to be willing to tell the American people if you're going to respect the highest court in the land. I mean, come on, people. I mean, we know what's going on here, don't we? I mean, I was born in the morning, but not yesterday morning. I mean, they're not answering the question because we already know the answer. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to pack the court by adding seats and appointing leftist, activist judges if they win the election. But we're not going to let it happen. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years, and we're going to protect an independent judiciary for generations to come. So we've stood for the rule of law. And every single day, President Donald Trump has stood with all the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement, and we always will. You know, the President and I know what you all know. The men and women who serve in law enforcement are some of the best people in this country, and they deserve the respect of every American every day. You know, would you join me in just showing the police officers around here just how much we appreciate the job they do? We appreciate them and their families. Thank you, sir. God bless them all. Now, the President and I will always support the right of peaceful protest. It's enshrined in our Constitution. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Burning businesses is not free speech. Now, for months, all Joe Biden talked about was peaceful protesters, remember? All summer long, as Americans literally watch businesses in their communities in our major cities burn to the ground. Businesses like Flora Westbrook's salon in Minneapolis. I was in Minneapolis just a few short weeks ago, and I went to what remains of the salon that she started 35 years ago. It was her dream. She told me about the night, just a couple nights after the killing of George Floyd, when she watched in horror as the violent protesters and looters came closer and closer and closer to her little salon until they burned her out. Men and women, this will not stand. We will not tolerate violence against innocent civilians or property or law enforcement, and those who do these things will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You know, the truth is Joe Biden would double down on the policies that have led to violence in America's cities. I mean, when you start to pull back on support for the men and women who protect and serve, you only embolden those who would do harm to our families and our communities. Now, Joe Biden explains it all by saying he thinks that America is, quote, systemically racist, and that police officers in this country, in his words, have a, quote, implicit bias against minorities. When asked if he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden said, yes, absolutely. Kamala Harris recently praised the mayor of Los Angeles for cutting $150 million from the budget of the LAPD. But let me make you a promise. With 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House, we're going to back the blue. We're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever. You know, you and I know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and supporting our African American neighbors and friends and minorities and those that live in our major cities, whether it's Toledo or anywhere else. I mean, the truth is, we've done both for the last 3.5 years. I mean, under this president, we supported 4,000 new police officers on the streets through the COPS program. When violence hit our cities, President Trump launched Operation Legend, named after a 4-year-old boy who was gunned down in his bed in urban violence. And we've already arrested more than 3,000 violent perpetrators in cities around America, working with state and local authorities. And at the very same time, as President Trump described in that debate last night, we had the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, the highest funding ever for historically black colleges and universities, 8,000 opportunity zones for inner city communities around America, criminal justice reform, educational choice. We have supported the African American community and all of our minorities. At the same time, we've supported our law enforcement. And I promise you, with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House, we're going to have law and order in every city, in every state, in this nation, for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God. Beyond all of that, when it comes to what we cherish most, our liberties. When Joe Biden was vice president, we actually saw a steady assault on the religious liberty of Americans. You remember that? I mean, they even hauled the Little Sisters of the Poor, a group of nuns that had taken a vow of poverty. They hauled the Little Sisters of the Poor into federal court to force them to compromise their faith to live under the standards and mandates of Obamacare. But under President Trump, we restored the conscience rights of doctors, nurses, and religious charities, and President Trump ended the assault on the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the Supreme Court made it permanent. President Trump will always stand for the freedom of religion of every American, of every faith. And finally, for me, maybe most important of all, where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, and are calling for record increases in funding for abortion at home and abroad. President Donald Trump reinstated the Mexico City policy to prevent taxpayer dollars from being used to promote abortion, and he signed a bill allowing states to defund Planned Parenthood. President Donald Trump is the most pro-life president in American history, and we're going to stand for the right to life for 4 more years. Thank you. So for our first 3 years, think of all the progress that we made. We rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We stood for law and order, liberties, and life. And none of that would have been possible without the strong and consistent support of Ohio's Republican delegation to Congress. It's true. That's why right after you vote to re-elect President Donald Trump, we need you to send Congressman Bob Latta back to a new Republican majority in Congress that retires Nancy Pelosi once and for all. You know, when you look at all that we accomplished those first 3 years, with Republican majorities in the House and Senate in the first 2, there's only one way you can describe it. In 3 short years, we made America great again. It's true. And then the coronavirus struck from China. But I'm here to tell you, before the first case of community spread anywhere in the United States, President Trump did what no American president had ever done. He suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. President Trump put the health of America first. Now, Joe Biden Joe Biden said that was xenophobic. He said it was hysterical. It'd take him 2.5 months before he would admit that it was the right thing to do. Check the record. But I can tell you, as the head of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China saved untold American lives, and it bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. It's true. We reinvented testing. We saw to the development, including all across Ohio, of literally billions of supplies that we made available to our doctors and nurses and hospitals and healthcare providers. We launched the development of new medicines and therapeutics that are literally saving lives today. And we are just a matter of a few weeks away from having the first coronavirus vaccine in the world with tens of millions of doses for the American people. That's what leadership looks like, Ohio. And I promise you, we're going to keep making sure, as we all continue to do our part, we're going to keep making sure that our doctors and nurses and long-term care and nursing homes and all of our healthcare providers have all the supplies, all the testing that they need. We're going to keep working to slow the spread, protect the vulnerable, and save lives until that day comes that we put this coronavirus in the past. And where Joe Biden is talking about shutting down the economy, we are opening up America again. I mean, it's amazing to think, in just the last 5 months alone, as we started to open up America again, having lost 22 million jobs at the height of this pandemic, we've already seen 11.5 million Americans go back to work, including nearly 500,000 working people right back here in the state of Ohio. We are opening up America again, and we are opening up America's schools. We're working around the clock to make sure our schools can get open, stay open, and get our kids back in the classroom. And I'm proud to report to you, Mrs. Pence is already back in a classroom in that little Christian school just outside Washington, D.C. It's been about getting them in the classroom, but I'm also, I figure a lot of you are just as excited as me that thanks to President Trump's leadership, come this Saturday, Big Ten football is back too. And the Buckeyes will be back on the gridiron. So we're making real progress through the time of testing through which we've passed. But we're all gathered here today on this breezy October day in Ohio because we got a choice to make. And the choice in this election has never been clearer. The stakes have never been higher. I mean, when you look at their agenda of higher taxes, open borders, socialized medicine, a Green New Deal, defunding the police and packing the courts, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. Now, Joe Biden said that democracy is on the ballot. And I think our economic recovery is on the ballot. I think law and order are on the ballot. But I also think there's things much more foundational to who we are that are on the ballot as well. You know, in this election, I think it's not going to be so much whether Ohio and America end up more Republican or more Democrat, more conservative or more liberal, more red or more blue. I think the choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's a choice of whether or not we're going to continue to chart a course, even in these challenging times, build on our highest ideals of faith and freedom and patriotism, or whether we're going to let Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, and the radical left steer us down a leftward path of socialism and American decline. So I want to say to all of you here in the Buckeye State, for our freedom and for all the ideals that have always made America great, we need to decide right here and right now that Joe Biden will never be president of the United States. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. I mean, 4 more years means more jobs. 4 more years means more judges. 4 more years means more support for our troops and the police. And it's going to take at least 4 more years to drain that swamp. You know, as the president said, over the next 4 years, we've got a lot of work to do. Right out of the gate, we're going to distribute the vaccine and defeat the China virus once and for all. We're going to maintain America's unrivaled military might and ensure peace through strength. We're going to make Ohio and America into the manufacturing superpower of the world and end our reliance on China. We're going to hold all of our freedoms, our religious liberty, and the right to keep and bear arms. We're going to hire more police. We're going to ban sanctuary cities, and we're going to fix this broken immigration system once and for all. And we're going to stop the indoctrination of our students and restore patriotic education to America's schools. You know, it's like the president said at Mount Rushmore back in July. We're going to teach our children to love our country, honor our history, and always respect our great American flag. So I thank you for coming out today. I really do. It's a great honor for me to see you here today. Before I head off to Pittsburgh, I got to ask you to do a few things. You know, before he called me up to ask me to join this ticket 4 years ago, I didn't know him very well at all, but we've served shoulder to shoulder together these last 4 years, and we've gotten to be very close friends. And I can tell you firsthand, there's never been a day gone by against unrelenting assault by Democrats in Washington and their allies in the media. There's never been a day gone by that President Trump hasn't gotten up, turned his face like flint against the wind, and fought to keep the promises that he made to the people of Ohio. Now it's our turn to fight for him. It's on, Ohio. So I got a couple things I got to ask you to do, and then I got a plane to catch. First thing I need you to do is vote, Ohio. Vote to re-elect President Donald Trump to the White House. Okay? I checked on the way here. I know early voting has already started. Karen and I just voted over in the Hoosier State this morning. So you can get it done too. You can just head right from here down to Lucas County Board of Elections, One Government Center, Suite 300, Toledo, Ohio. Open 8 to 6 today. There is still time. And tomorrow, before or after the game, open 8 to 4. Go and vote, Ohio. Vote to re-elect President Donald Trump. And remember, friends don't let friends vote alone. Bring a family member, bring a coworker, bring a friend, and vote to re-elect this president for 4 more years. And secondly, after you vote with a friend, I need you to spend the next 11 days telling somebody. Telling somebody about everything we've talked about here today. I mean, tell them why you came out to the airport today and stood in the breeze to hear your vice president. I mean, I can tell looking at every face in this crowd, you know what I'm talking about. Tell them everything that they're not hearing on most of their major national networks about all we've done to make this country strong and great. Tell them about this president's leadership in those first 3 years and his strong and compassionate leadership through this challenging year through which we passed. And tell them about the choice. Tell them what's on the line. You know, I'll always believe the most powerful media in America is not your big newspapers, it's not your TV networks, it's not even your social media or big tech. I think the most powerful media in America is word of mouth. It's when someone who knows you and respects you hears from you about an issue that you think is important to their life, to this community, this state, and this nation. So after you vote with a friend, just pick up the phone, get online, stop somebody outside worship and work, say, I was out at the airport, ran into Mike. And we have got to get President Trump reelected for 4 more years. Ohio's got to lead the way. And finally, I have to tell you, having traveled around this country for the last 4 years, I'm more convinced than ever in my lifetime of 2 things about this great nation. Number one, America is a freedom-loving nation. And America is a nation of faith. I mean, everywhere I go, the sweetest words the President and I ever hear are when people reach out across a rope line and just say, I'm praying for you. And we hear it all the time. And we feel it in our hearts. We really do. And so if you're among those who bows the head and bends the knee from time to time, I'd encourage you to do it in the next 11 days. In these divided times, in these times of great national decision, I'd encourage you to pray. But pray with confidence, as Americans have done so throughout all the generations. Pray with confidence that if His people who are called by His name will humble themselves and pray and turn, that He'll do like He's always done through much more challenging times in the life of this nation. He'll hear from heaven, and He'll heal this land. This one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So pray for America. Pray for all of the American people. It'll make a real difference. I believe it with all my heart. So thank you again for coming out today. And thank you for the great honor of serving as your vice president these last 4 years. And I'm here to ask you to re-elect our president, and I'd like to be re-elected as your vice president for 4 more years as well. It's the greatest honor of my life. And I leave here today with renewed confidence that this hardy crowd out in the breeze and the sunshine in Ohio, with less than 11 days to go to Election Day, if all of us do all that we need to do between now and when the polls close, we're going to have a great victory all across Ohio and all across America. And with Ohio leading the way, we're going to make Ohio and America stronger than ever before. We're going to make Ohio and America more prosperous than ever before. We're going to make Ohio and America more united than ever before. And with Congressman Bob Latta in a new Republican majority in the United States House of Representatives, with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Again. Thank you all very much. God bless you. God bless America. Now let's go get it done, Ohio.